Hello gamers of the world and welcome to Video Game Bros. My name is Daniel aka Jack Nakiri, and today we will be taking a look at the Noble Wagon. And first of all, in my last wagon crafting tutorial I was showing you how to make the merchant wagon, and I am doing this for completion to cover the wagons, and I still think the merchant wagon is better. It's cheaper to make and it offers the same kind of features as the noble wagon, but the noble wagon looks fancy and it's like a sports car. You know, you don't really need it, but you want it anyways. So here's the crafting guide for the noble wagon. Hope you enjoy. Alright guys, before we can start crafting our noble wagon, we need to get ourselves the house. We need a wagon workshop. And to find these you can use the drop down list here and find a wagon workshop. Then put in level 3 because that's what we need to make the wagon. So here's the one in Altinova that I'm going to use because I basically have my base set up in Altinova, so it makes more sense. But if you want, there is also a wagon workshop over at Altinova where you can make the Calphion, where you can make the wagon as well. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I'm blind. So it's this one, I think. You need level 3. Anyways, yeah, there's the one. So this one in Calphion, or this one over in Altinova. Right, so let's get into the materials, and the first one we need to get is Sturdy Plywood. This material is probably the most complicated material in this craft. It will take most of your time, energy and money if you choose to buy it, because we need to process it quite a bit, and to process plywood into sturdy plywood you need the knowledge of heating skilled. You get this by doing a quest or a small quest series. I will put the link to the starting quest in the description, but this quest requires you to have gathering level professional 1 at least, as well as processing of professional 5. So it's you need quite some levels to be able to craft or to make this material. But if you have that, you can go ahead and make some sturdy plywood. So the first we need to get the raw material, which is pine timber, which you get by going out in the forest and chop down pines. Straightforward. There are pines a little bit all over the place here in both Serendia and Calphion. I don't know any sweet spots. I've been doing some. I know there's some pines here, but I'm sure you can find awesome places for pine. But if you're like me, a little bit lazy, you want to get it from your workers. So I use this pine node over at Serendia Shrine, and I have my worker gather pine here for me, and there's another node that's a little bit awkward to get. I think it's this one, Murray Cave. I haven't even discovered but I think you can get pine from this one, which is, I guess it's closest to either Bear or Keplan. But I have this node, it should be fine. So we have the timber. Now we can start processing it. So the first step is to make the timber into planks, and one processing task takes 5 timbers and makes planks. So let's chuck on our handy dandy clothes here to get us some extra XP. Now we hit L to get our processing window up here, and we select shopping and put in the pine timber. And now on lower levels you will get either 1 or maybe 2 planks as a result, and as you gain higher and higher processing level you can get even more. So in this case I got 3 planks. Okay, so we have now chopped the timber into planks. We can now make plywood, and plywood is made the same way, but this process takes 10 planks of making plywood, but the same kind of technique. So you just put in 10 planks into chopping and you will get plywood. In this case I got 4, which is awesome, a really good deal. That's because I am almost professional 10 with the processing, so that's good. Now the hard part begins. Alright, so we've been chopping up a bunch of plywood, but now we need to make it into sturdy plywood. And to do this we need to heat up the plywood together with some sturdy plywood hardener. This is the process that requires you to have heating skill, as I mentioned earlier. And the plywood hardener is product of an alchemy recipe. So to make it you need alchemy apprentice 1. So apprentice 1 in alchemy and you can make it. And I will not go into depth on this recipe, but this is what you need for 1 batch. You need a pure powder reagent, which itself is the result of an alchemy recipe. You also need bloody tree knot, which you can get when lumbering trees above skilled 5 in gathering. You can also get it from various lumbering nodes. We need fir sap, which you get by using a fluid extractor on a fir tree. And you can also get this from a few fir nodes, or 1 fir node south of Calthian. Anyways, and the last material is trace of earth, which is kind of tricky. You get this from a few excavation nodes, so you can see over here, what is it, northwest of Heidel, we have the ancient stone chamber. And if you have this excavation node, you can have your workers get trace of earth, among other things, here. And there's a similar node over here in Media, the ancient ruins excavation site, which is the similar kind of deal. You send the workers there and they bring up various specific materials. These nodes, if you can't see them here, you need to go to the node manager of the ancient ruins excavation sites, for example, and you unlock this by spending 35 energy. I don't have any of these at the moment, so I bought 3 to show you how it's made. Alright, so we got 1 batch here, so let's go over to our house. And a little bit dark here, but we go to our alchemy tool. Let's actually chuck on our alchemy clothes first. They look kind of cool. So we interact with the tool and put in these materials. Oops, all of them. Yep, like so. And let's go for it. Making these pure powder reagent is a good way to level up your alchemy, by the way, to apprentice 1, so you can then make your plywood hardener. Alright, so we got that. We can now make our sturdy plywood. So let's take on the processing clothes and get some plywoods here. Okay, so for 1 task of making sturdy plywood, we need 10 of the pine plywood, and we need 3 plywood hardener. And you use heating this time, it's important. So put in these and go for it. Let's see how many we can make. Get 2. Okay, that's good. So that's our first 2 pine plywood. We're gonna need 12 of these for our noble wagon. The second material we need for making our noble wagon is the brass ingot. Brass ingot is an alloy of zinc and copper, and therefore zinc and copper is the raw materials we need to make it. So you can of course get it by gathering it yourself. You can take a pickaxe and go out and get copper from either copper stones or granite, which you can find over in Balenos and surrounding area, for example. And to get zinc, you can mine from zinc stones or andesite, bloodstone, or sandstone, which you can find over in here in Media. If you're a lazy boy and you don't want to get it yourself, you can have your workers get it. There is here in Altinova, there is 2 zinc nodes here, one in an abundant iron mine, one in normal lava cave, and there is a copper node just over here in the Media shore, which will give you all the materials you need. There's also plenty of other copper ores to the west. Alright, so we got some ores and now we are going to process it into brass. So first things first, we need to melt down the rough zinc ore into more refined form, as well with the copper. So just put 5 in heating and it will melt it down into melted zinc shards as well as melted copper shards. So like so. So 5 of them makes for one task of processing. And now we need to further process them. Alright, so with the shards melted and ready, we can now make our brass ingot. We do this by heating these 2 together. This, however, requires you to have knowledge of heating Begginer, which you get by doing a simple quest, and which requires you only to have gathering apprentice 4, something like that. Very achievable. So let's do that. If you can't be bothered with doing the quest or getting the knowledge, you can have your workers do it in a mineral workbench, like one of these. So you get a mineral workbench and you see that you can get your workers to go here and make brass ingots. This, however, will always produce one ingot for these 5 shards, while you see I got 3 when I did it myself. So when you get higher processing level, it becomes more and more worth it to do it yourself. Right, so that's the brass ingot. We're going to also need 12 of these. Right, so for the third material we are going to get some fine soft hide. This is made by refining soft hide, which is made by refining the hides from either deer, sheep or fox. To get their hides, you go to a corpse of one of these animals and you use a tanning knife and you gather some nice hides from them. If you don't know where to find any of these, deer, sheep or deer, sheep or fox, there's several places around the map where you can find these. But for example, there is a bunch of foxes, gray foxes here, just outside Heidel, which are a good spot if you're just looking for a spot to get hides. Alright, so you get some fox hides or whatever. I got some deer hide here to show you. So 5 of them. You can use drying to make a soft hide. A funny fact is you cannot use drying when it's raining at all. Oh, interesting. Now, so we got 4 soft hide from this process, but we're also lucky enough to get 1 fine soft hide. So there's a small chance when you're processing stuff that you can skip from tier 1 to tier 3, let's say. So I went from deer hide directly to fine soft hide, which is a bonus. But what we got from this was the soft hides. And now we need to make the rest of these. Alright, so to make fine soft hide yourself, you take the soft hides you just dried and you dry them 1 more time. And this time it takes 10 soft hides for 1 task. Alright, so we got 1 more soft hide, fine soft hide. And we are going to need 15 of these fine soft hides for our noble wagon. Next material is blackstone powder. This is something you can get from either by having your workers make it in a refinery by processing rough stone. But I recommend you to, as you play the game and grind your characters up in level, that you grind down your the extra crystals you get. That will give you a bunch of blackstone powder. The last component of the craft is wagon horses. So let me get over to the stable keeper. Hey there. Alright, so we're over here by the stable keeper. So we talk to him and go to his shop. And here we can buy, if we scroll down a bit, we can find wagon horse. And for this wagon we're going to need 4 of these. So let's just buy 4. Now we are ready to craft some wagon. Let's go to our house. Oops, I only have 1 worker available, but it's fine. Let's switch over to the correct wagon first of all. So the noble wagon. You see here the materials and how many times they have. So if you send this worker, let's do something we have. So the brass ingots so he needs to go there, take 1 brass ingot, go over to the workshop and do his thing 12 times for all the brass. So I can either queue up this guy 12 times and he will go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Or I can have 2 workers and queue them up 6 times and they can go in parallel. So possibly if I would have 6 or say 12 workers exactly like this one, I could get all the brass done in 13 minutes. That's one strategy. You can also have, say, 5 different workers and just send them to one of these materials and have them responsible for one. And say, when the wagon horse dude is done, he will go do some blackstone powder. You can mix up how you send your workers here, however you want. But at the moment I need to free up some more workers, so I will just start with this human and get him started. So let's start on the brass, and as my workers get done with their other task, I will queue them up and I will get back when the wagon is finished. Alright guys, so my workers have finished crafting the noble wagon, and it has appeared in my storage as a wagon registration for the noble wagon. So let's head down to the stable and register our new wagon. Right, so down by the stable keeper we go to the stable and we make sure we have some space in our stables, and we hit the register emblem and right click this and we give it a name, fancy wagon, Awesome. Alright, so I turned up the gamma because it was so dark in game, but let's compare the stats. So the merchant wagon we see that I made in the last wagon crafting video, it is comparable to the noble wagon. So as you can see here, noble wagon has 7k life and almost 1 million lifespan. The merchant wagon has a little bit 500 less durability, which is the life, and the same amount of lifespan. So they are pretty similar on that point. The noble wagon has a weight limit of 900 and has 20 inventory slots, while the merchant wagon has 810 weight, so a little bit less, and also has 18 inventory slots, which is 2 less than the noble wagon. They both has 4 horses connected to them, and the merchant wagon has a little bit more speed and stats compared to the noble wagon. They have 100% speed and other stuff here, and the noble wagon has 95. So the noble wagon is a little bit slower, but has greater cargo capacity compared to the merchant wagon, making it more suitable for you know, shipping freight goods and doing trading basically. So let's take this one for a spin. The merchant wagon is still my go-to wagon because it is for sure easier and cheaper to make, and they have basically offer the same kind of stats and good stuff. Also, the noble wagon looks kind of sweet. You know, you can make or buy equipment for it and give it a roof and give it some fancier wheels and stuff, and it will look even more awesome. You can also dye it from dyes from the cash shop if you would like. Alright, so this is it for the noble wagon crafting guide. I hope you liked it, and yes, if you have any questions about the crafting of this wagon, please leave me a comment down below, and if you have suggestions for what videos you want to see in the future, you can just leave a comment as well and tell me. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.